This is a KOB4 special presentation.
Rainbow Ryders, I'm setting it up for the employees to take over. That's really what I want to do. I want the legacy to continue.
When you're up there, it's a peace that comes over you, a perspective of just how fragile life is and how special the moment is that you're living right there, right now.
That's real important to me. When I started doing this, I never would have imagined we would have been here. So, we have a little balloonist prayer that we do, and it goes as follows. The winds would welcome you as softness. The sun has blessed you with his warm hands. You have flown so high and so well that God has joined you in laughter. It may set you gently back again into loving arms of Mother Earth.
Every October, our state and really the whole world comes together on this field for the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. It's an event grounded in tradition. Every year we look forward to the fantastic shades of magnificent shapes, the food, the sights, the sounds, and most importantly, the people. But for the first time in recent memory, our excitement for Fiestas is different. At just 66 years young, Scott Appelman, the founder of Rainbow Ryders Balloons, passed away in August. With a single balloon and a vision, Scott really changed the way we fly at Balloon Fiesta. He taught us year after year that it takes determination, leadership, airmanship, and most importantly, a passion for chasing the wind. As a young man, Scott Appelman's curiosity fueled his sense of adventure. At age 11, Scott and the rest of the Appelmans planted their roots in Albuquerque, the same year as our first Balloon Fiesta. It wasn't long before the second Fiesta grabbed his attention.
One of my crew who I was teaching to fly introduced me to Scott and said Scott wanted to learn how to fly. And I said, okay, I guess I could teach a couple at a time.
The balloon bug bit Scott hard. Pilot Mark Sullivan was ready to chase adventure with Scott, a feeling passed down to Mark by his mentor.
I actually met Sid when I purchased a balloon. He just took me under his wing and taught me how to fly. The
same way Sid Cutter spotted curiosity in Mark, it wasn't hard to see the burning passion in Scott.
He's kind of a natural pilot, and not too many people just come up and say they want to learn how to fly. They usually get involved with crewing first.
So I remember Scott. I don't know if I met him in middle school or if it would have been high school. He would spend a lot of time at our house.
The Appelman family business would be Scott's first client, flying the Academy Heating and Plumbing banner on his first balloon, named Rainbow Ryder.
In the beginning, that would have been probably when he had the 1 or 2 balloons, right at the beginning.
From the garage of his Northeast Heights home, ballooning consumed Scott. So like any balloon pilot would do, he took a calculated risk.
I think he had a pretty safe future back when he was working in his family business. And he chose to chart his own course.
A path straight to the top, where he challenged some of the best balloon pilots in the country. He won national competitions, including some held in New Mexico. One called Top Gun, an award won by Mark the year before.
Scotty used to say that I didn't really teach him how to fly, I taught him how to compete.
Scott was grounded, not by gravity, but in his love of ballooning, and everyone who loved him for it.
And now that we are here, it's my responsibility, my drive, my passion to make sure that we continue this on in 3 different cities that are all excited about the future of Rainbow Ryders. So we continue to try to cultivate and bring people in that are really dedicated to doing it, that really love it, and are passionate about flying a hot air balloon and sharing that experience with other people.
To say that Scott Appelman built a ballooning empire would be an understatement. With Rainbow Ryders, he brought our communities together, from Colorado Springs to Phoenix to right here in Albuquerque, where it all started. As he grew his business, he brought us along for the ride, growing and expanding the Balloon Fiesta we know today.
Anywhere you go in the world, if you say you're from Albuquerque, you're likely to run into somebody who says, oh, they have the balloons there, don't they? And people like Scotty are the reason that's a thing.
One of the greatest challenges anybody faces in life is finding success in what they love.
The very best life a human can live is getting paid to do something they love. A hobby as a career as a hobby.
It took time for Scott Appelman's hobby to turn into a full-time career.
Started the company from a single balloon out of his home, and turned it into what it is now.
He extricated himself out of that family business because he just fell in love with balloons.
By 1983, Scott took everything he learned at UNM's Anderson School to lay a foundation for a ballooning business.
We ran it out of his house, had probably 5 or 6 balloons, a couple of corporate balloons for ocean spray, his Letta balloon, and a couple of ride balloons.
The corporate contracts stacked up and his network grew. His hunger for innovation earned him a seat at the Balloon Fiesta board, where he pitched a new event to bring everyone back out to Fiesta after dark.
Such a great idea to try and make it a huge event.
300 balloons packed a much smaller launch field in 1987 to commemorate our state's 75th anniversary with our first ever balloon glow.
I remember getting goosebumps and chills every time the countdown hit 0 and everybody hit their burners, and it could not have gone off better.
That event would put Scott Appelman and the name Rainbow Ryders on the map.
Rainbow just was always the top tier of everything, like the equipment, the pilots, the crew, the facilities.
I know as a kid, I was a big collector of the balloon cards, and if you got a Rainbow Ryders balloon card, and those are the ones that you really held on tight.
Alfred Salazar grew up watching Rainbow Ryder balloons.
They were flying some of the prettiest balloons.
Skim treetops in Bernalillo.
Scott came out and he greeted me real warmly.
Alfred didn't know until years later he would be collecting pilot skills.
Giving me the opportunity to come and fly.
So he could be the one handing out balloon cards.
But it was also just being part of that whole era of Rainbow Ryders growing the way they did.
He really liked having people work their way up within the company so that they could learn those core principles of his that mattered so much.
The Appelmans held their family values close, and that fueled the business.
People were starting to recognize the brand, Rainbow Ryders, and as it's continued on today, just more and more people wanting to work for the company and work for Scott.
In 2009, Rainbow Ryders extended its reach beyond New Mexico, opening a major year-round operation in Phoenix.
This was the first expansion of the company. I think then he really recognized the opportunities of the growth. Once Phoenix became established, he saw that, we were kind of unstoppable.
Hey, if it starts sliding, you pull that red line, okay?
My job consists of checking off bucket lists. It doesn't even feel like a job half the time.
All the time, sharing the gift of flight, launching above and beyond the horizon.
That is still a passion that we as a team share, and we want to continue to grow Rainbow Ryders.
Going from the single balloon all the way up to being the largest ride operator in North America, probably the world.
Scott Appelman's passion for flying wasn't contained to just the skies. He was always looking at who would follow in his footsteps. Coming up after the break, how Rainbow Ryders and Scott Appelman inspired the next generation of pilots.
I know for me, the hope that he's proud of me. Just that we continue to make him proud and looking for that next step after Fiesta's done. Okay, what are we going to do next? How are we going to keep moving forward and continue on his legacy?
I think Scott had no limitations to who could experience the joy and flight of ballooning. He really did make it available to everyone at any age, at any way they needed for their life.
Adventure knew no bounds with Scott Appelman. His ideas, his creativity, it was all endless. One of his more ingenious ideas was to create a pilot training program. There he would take some of the best talent from his crew and turn them into pilots. They would go on to operate his growing fleet. Now, with that in mind, they all said, what are we going to do for the next generation of pilots? They say it's time to inspire them to fly.
Have a absolutely perfect morning out here for the 13th annual International Balloon Fiesta here in Albuquerque. We're out at Cutter Field.
I don't think it's just because we were the first. I think and hope it's because we're the best.
Every October, the sky above us comes to life in an aerial pageantry of nylon, flames, and hot air as Albuquerque morphs into the hot air balloon capital of the world.
This is where it all started. This is the motherland, the mothership, whatever you want to call it. You know, you could compare it to like Lambeau Field for the Packers, or Soldier Field or something like that.
It was at Coronado Mall, and it started with just 13 balloons, and they thought it was going to be a minor event.
What was supposed to be a small effort to celebrate a landmark anniversary in 1972 caught a gust of momentum from enthusiasts who wanted to make a piloting pilgrimage every year since. A tradition in its third generation.
Family is a huge part of ballooning, both from the aspect of being spectators, but also for the participants.
The years have flown by. Pilots are more experienced than ever. The balloons are bigger, and the crowds are breaking records.
There is what we call the graying of the industry happening, where a few people have decided to, retire from ballooning.
When we spoke to Scott Appelman in 2023, his mission to revolutionize Rainbow Ryders was lifting off.
Trying to get the younger generation involved in hot air ballooning is a big challenge right now.
That would be class D to 8800.
It looks like you would be in class Charlie.
Because it's not like an airplane. You can't turn left, you can't turn right. You have to have a relationship with the balloon itself. You kind of talk to it, and you kind of figure out what it wants and what you want, and you kind of meet in the middle.
Kirsten Weiner is a balloon and fixed-wing pilot who graduated from Albuquerque Aviation Academy earlier this year. She took away a diploma and a handful of pilot certificates, something that would otherwise cost $20,000, even $30,000.
I kind of just learned that I didn't like public middle school, and I wanted something different, and I had been ballooning my whole life. There's this pilot school, do you want to try that? And the rest is history, now I'm a pilot.
Flying for me is secondary compared to the fulfillment I get being able to open doors for these kids.
Aeronautics Director Dr. Lauren Chavez, call sign Doc, wants our future aviators to be inspired and be prepared to take over as more senior pilots retire from different sectors of the aviation industry.
The best success story is our student who decided to be a pilot to teach other kids at his alma mater. I think that's the greatest success story.
Double Eagle to support. Then we went into Albuquerque.
I took the discovery flight here, and Doc, she let me fly it the first time. I don't think I would have been a pilot if I hadn't come here.
Rebecca Posen also graduated from Albuquerque Aviation Academy, now studying at Spartan College of Aeronautics.
5. Rotate. Best rate of climb, 75.
Kirsten and Rebecca both plan on taking their piloting skills to Balloon Fiesta Field and beyond, inspired by Scott Appelman's dedication to our next generation.
We're starting to work with the SAMS Academy in order for us to kind of refill those ranks of commercial pilots. and still trying to spread the word of ballooning, whether they do it commercially or whether they do it recreationally.
Ready to carry on a tradition and build a new legacy of excellence in flight.
Preparing for a flight with no clear destination in mind. That's how Scott Appelman lived his life, with calculated trust. After the break, the thrill of going where the wind takes us and the art of landing with ease.
And he never wanted to sit still. He was constantly coming up with new ideas, and I really didn't know until after he passed away all of the input and the impact he had on so many different things, like the big balloon glows at night. What a huge part of Fiesta that is.
Scott brought so much joy to people. There's people that aren't going to be there every year just because that's the nature of life, but someone so big, so huge, such a champion of ballooning and such a champion of Albuquerque and New Mexico, it's a big deal to us.
Flight. That was the gift that Scott Appelman so generously shared with all of us. With his passing, it's left a huge void in the ballooning community worldwide. Now, a business, a family, and our community here in Albuquerque is left to figure out how to explore with the inspiration that Scott left to us.
I went to pull my phone out, and I was like, I got ready to send the text, and I was like, oh wow, I completely forgot it.
Well, Scott did chase the wind. You know, that's what he did every single day.
I was standing at a gas station somewhere in Oklahoma in August. I'm filling up the van. This older gentleman walks up to me and he goes, "You Scott?" I go, "Yes, sir, I am." He grabs my hand, he starts shaking my hand, and he's looking me square in the eye. And he goes, "You flew me and the missus about 8 years ago on our anniversary, and she still talks about it. And I want to thank you." That's pretty cool.
Ballooning was his life, and it was so important to him, and giving that back to the community and growing it and seeing other people love it and want to be a part of it was really what made him the happiest.
We'll never know exactly how many lives Scott touched. It would be easier to say that he fathered a whole generation of ballooning that touched every corner of the world.
One of my favorite ballooning memories with my dad is the 5 years that we went down to Chihuahua, Mexico to help put on a balloon event called Fiesta del Globo.
Scott flew with as many people in as many communities as he could, any place he could launch a balloon. His team was by his side to handle any event, with or without him.
It just feels like typical Scott. He would always do these things to test us because he was our mentor and he wanted to see how we handled situations. And this is the perfect opportunity to see how we handle the pressure.
Labor Day liftoff in Colorado Springs and the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta came just weeks after we lost Scott on that Thursday in August.
I didn't know who else to talk to, so I just happened to call my mom, and then I talked to her for about 5 minutes, and then I came and talked to staff and had to deal with, dealt with what we had to deal with.
With open hearts, the shared grief is shouldered as a crew, together.
This ballooning community lifts you up and really keeps their arms around you. I hope that that is felt by Scott's family.
Scott was my best friend, and that's really what I'm missing the most, is not having him here to talk to him, to ask him about things, to bounce ideas off of him. There's things that come up when I'm in a struggle, and I'll put my finger in his ring, and I can hear him telling me, "You're a smart girl, you'll figure it out."
Searching for the strength to carry on Scott's mission and the words to honor his legacy.
That was Scott's balloon. This is Bill Secchi. Yeah. So I don't know who's flying it this year.
I miss him. I've been sharing this square with Scott for 4 years. We'll be thinking about you today, buddy.
As much as it's so unfair that he's gone, I just have to cherish that I got that time with him that I did.
Everybody happy about that? Yeah.
Thank you for just like all the opportunities and everything that we've gotten to do as friends and co-workers. You know, just it's brought me so many experiences in life.
I would want to tell him how grateful I am for all the opportunities, not only that he gave me, but that he gave others. How proud I am of what he built. And how excited I am to see where it goes. And that I miss him, you know.
The way that we take to the skies is forever changed, thanks to Scott Appelman and the inspiration he left behind for all of us. His legacy will live on through Rainbow Ryders, because this whole time, he was teaching all of us how to chase the wind. For everyone at KOB4, I'm Hawker Vanguard. Thanks for watching.